Woodlands ranked #1 in America 2 years in a row. 47,000 houses, 121,000 people, and 220 miles of trails. But which of those things actually matter when you're making a $600,000 decision? In today's video, I'm gonna give you both sides. The 5 reasons that people move here and never leave, and the 5 things that catch people completely off guard after they've already signed. By the end of this, you'll know exactly if the Woodlands is the right move for you and your family. Let's get into it. The first thing you notice about the Woodlands, and almost everybody notices, this place was designed with intention. None of this happened by accident. Every street, every tree line, the distance between amenities, someone actually planned that. And that's not the case for most suburbs in Houston. They wanted a community where everyone could connect through trails, walking, shopping centers, malls. Everything that you need is here in this one community so that you never have to leave. Now, with all of those things, anytime you need to go to the grocery store, H-E-B, you like to go to a restaurant, a pizza place, there's at least one connected to every village that's within 2 miles. For example, I live in Alden Bridge and we primarily shop at H-E-B and Kroger. Both of those are 1.5 miles from my house. And if we want to go to Trader Joe's, which is a little bit specialty, it's about 4 miles. So just like the name itself, we have 7,800 acres of preserved green space. This was not an afterthought. It was built into the design of the entire community. So the whole time you're living here, it doesn't feel like a community of homes that are just laid out on a track. It feels like you're in the forest. It feels like you're one with nature. Everything is tucked back behind the trees and hidden, which gives everybody this beautiful sense of privacy. But a master plan on paper doesn't mean anything if the people don't use what was built for them. So let's talk about whether they do. Here's the thing about our trail system and our neighborhood parks. Most cities bring a handful in and call them a feature. The Woodlands has 220 miles of trails, which is almost 10 times the size of any other master plan community. If I walk out of my house and go down about 1.5 miles, there's 4 parks that I pass for my kids to play at. And let me tell you, they pick their favorite ones on different days, so we're visiting all the parks on a nonstop basis. Not only does our community have a huge trail system, but we actually have lakes and ponds spread out through the community. The biggest one we have is Lake Woodlands, which is in the front of the neighborhood by Market Street, Waterway, and the mall. On this lake, you can paddleboard, kayak, fish, rent boats, and use it as a recreational lake. Now, we also have waterfront homes that sit on Lake Woodlands, and if you do own one of those, you can keep a pontoon boat or a small boat, but it has to be an electric engine. My point is, families actually use all of these. This isn't just another marketing tactic to get you to move into the neighborhood or an apartment complex that showcases all the fun things that you can do that nobody uses. But none of that outdoor access and amenities matter if your kids are zoned to schools that do not perform. So let's get into that. Quick pause because I want to give you something. Everything that we're talking about today in this video, the villages, the schools, the numbers, I've actually already put into one place, and it's called the Woodlands Playbook. My team and I have put over 200 hours into this thing. It's 32 pages. It's completely free. Most buyers don't get this kind of information until after they've already bought a home here, and this solves that. The link for this is in the description. Go grab it now because the next few things I'm about to go over will make way more sense with this in your hand. If you have kids or you plan on selling one day to someone that does, this next part matters more than anything else in this video. The majority of the Woodlands here is zoned to Conroe ISD. And some people might ask, what does ISD stand for? ISD here stands for Independent School District. And in fact, the schools here in the Woodlands are ranked #1 in Montgomery County. Now, keep in mind, the schools that you're zoned to are not specific to any direct village, but it's based on your home address. For example, there's a section of Sterling Ridge that's to the south side of the neighborhood that's actually zoned to Magnolia ISD. And then in Creekside, most of all the homes in Creekside are actually zoned to Tomball ISD. It just depends on where your address is, and it's not pertaining to any specific village that you're set at a certain school. So you can have 2 kids, same village, practically neighbors. That does not mean that you're gonna go to this specific school. So here in the Woodlands, we have private options as well, including the Woodlands Christian and the John Cooper School. And the John Cooper School is actually recognized as one of the top schools in the entire nation. So whether you have kids or not, these school zones are gonna directly affect the values of the properties here in the Woodlands. But resale value only matters if there's people here that can actually buy at that level. So let's talk about who's living here and why they can afford to do so. Most suburbs are just a place to live. People sleep there, drive somewhere to go to work, and then they come home. The Woodlands stopped being that a long time ago. A lot of families that I help move here have their career right inside the Woodlands, and that's exactly what this master plan community's dream was to do. For everyone to be here and never have to leave, whether it's work, eating, hanging out with friends, exercising, going to school, it's all here based in the community. The median household income around here is about $136,000. You're talking about major employers right in your backyard. Most people know one of the biggest is right down the road in Spring, just about 10 minutes away is the ExxonMobil campus. Baker Hughes, HP just made a big move over here. Everything is gonna be a short drive either with inside the community or just outside. What's important is how long you want to commute to work. So that's why the different villages are important for you to understand and study so that you can know how close you want to be to your actual job. That is a real economic engine sitting inside this residential community, which raises an obvious question. If Houston is only around 30 miles away, why would anyone still live here? Let's answer that. Every single buyer I talk to asks me some version of the same question. Do I get peace and quiet, or do I get access to the city? In almost every market that I've worked in, you end up having to pick one, but that's what makes the Woodlands so unique. Here you really get the best of both worlds. As you drive through the neighborhood, it's almost as if you're in a forest, but there's a city inside of it. You want to catch a concert, you can go to the Pavilion. You don't have to go downtown. You need to go to a major brand store, we have all of those here. You need to shop at H-E-B, go to Costco, Market Street, high-end shopping. All of that is in this little center in our neighborhood so that you never have to leave. Those are the 5 real reasons why this place works. But here's what I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna sit here and give you a perfect highlight reel of why this place is so perfect, because that's exactly how buyers end up blindsided 6 months down the road after they purchase a home. So now I'm gonna give you the 5 things that nobody tells you until it's too late to change your mind. Let's start with the one thing that has absolutely nothing to do with money. The heat and humidity here will completely catch you off guard, especially if you move here in the winter. I have so many clients that move here in November, December, January, and I tell them before they come, especially when they're from a dry area or maybe somewhere that's colder, hey, listen, when July and August hit, it's going to be really hot. And they're like, yeah, we understand, we've read about it. They call me every August and go, holy crap, you are not kidding. When you're outside showing properties and you're walking land or doing something of that sort, you're going to sweat right through your shirt. So I bring a couple spares with me when I'm driving around showing properties because I know here in the summer it's going to be hot. I think 2 years ago we had about, I think it was a little over 90 days where it was over 100 degrees consecutively. So I would say from about mid-May to September, if you have any activities that are outside, kids sports, hanging out with friends, or even just hanging out with the kids outside in general, you're gonna sweat, it's gonna be hot. But the good thing is, when you come here, when you move, and you live here for at least 1 to 2 summers, your body's gonna get adjusted, you're gonna get used to it. Is this an absolute deal breaker? No, but it is something that you're gonna have to get used to if you wanna live here in the Woodlands. That's about comfort. You either accept it or you don't. This next thing that I'm about to talk about is the one thing that catches buyers completely off guard when they're making the move here. Okay, so here's what I want you to understand. Texas has no state income tax. People move here and think, oh, awesome, I'm gonna be saving a ton of money. Depending on where you're coming from, Texas generally is going to be a higher real estate tax state. So even though you do not have any state income tax, it's gonna make up for it potentially in your real estate taxes that are a little bit higher. If you're curious about what that tax rate actually looks like, you're gonna range between 1.7 and 2.5% here in Montgomery County, depending on the area and the MUD district. Now, this isn't always the case, but typically older homes are gonna have a lower tax rate just because the MUD bond has been paid off. And I know some of you are thinking, what the heck is a MUD bond? In the description, you can get a copy of our playbook, and it's gonna basically break down all of that for you. But essentially what it is a municipal utility district. So it's gonna service your water, sewer, drainage, and sometimes other utilities, depending on where you are. Let me give you guys a real world example. If you're buying a $600,000 property, your taxes are gonna range from $10,000 to $15,000 per year. That number has to be in your monthly budget from day one, not something you factor in once you're out making offers. I've seen buyers get the mortgage number perfectly right and get the tax number completely wrong. So that's something that you have to factor into your debt to income ratio and most importantly, your payment. Now let's talk about what happens the second you leave the Woodlands, especially if you're commuting to downtown Houston for work. If your job is inside Houston, the traffic is something that's going to take a toll on your quality of life every single day. The average commute time into Houston, of course, depending on what time, is going to be about 35 to 75 minutes. So if you're more in the western side of the villages in the neighborhood, it's going to be a little bit longer than if you live in the eastern side towards the front, which is right next to I-45. My sister-in-law works at the Houston Zoo and she lives here in the Woodlands. Some days it can be 45 minutes. If there's an accident, this can get really bad on 45. Sometimes it takes her an hour and 30, hour and 45 minutes to get back. So if you're commuting into Houston for work, it's a real conversation that you have to have for yourself, not just an inconvenience. So that commute is a tax on your time. And depending on which village you live in, that could add or subtract 30 minutes a day to your commute without you even realizing it until you're already here. Now let's talk about something that people living here talk about more than anything else. And honestly, I'm starting to feel it too. The Woodlands that you're looking at today is not the same Woodlands from 10 years ago. And I'm not the one telling you that. The people that have lived here the longest will bring this up without you even asking. In fact, Montgomery County is actually number 4 on the list for fastest growing counties in the United States and the birthplace of the Texas flag. So there are many, many people here that love their state. They know what it's about. And a lot of that obviously is the popularity of the area itself. But what we're seeing right now is there are a ton of new developments in any which direction. Conroe, Magnolia, Montgomery. What they're marketing those new developments as, X amount of minutes to the Woodlands. All the new developments that are around, all of those people are flooding into the Woodlands to go shopping, to go to concerts, to go to Market Street, to go to the mall, or even just come grab dinner at one of the amazing restaurants that we have here. Now, the population in the Woodlands hasn't necessarily exploded. We've only gone from about 114,000 to 121,000 in the last 5 years or so, but it's the new developments outside that are creating that congestion inside the neighborhood. Because, like I mentioned before in the video, all of these new communities are marketing towards being a certain distance from the Woodlands. So a lot of these new residents and growth of Montgomery County are going to be commuting into the Woodlands for work. Because we are a city in itself, there's a lot of job opportunities here. You're going to see this the most on a lot of the perimeter roads. So north of the neighborhood, you're going to have 1488, which has a lot of new developments out west, and down 2978 on the west side as well. So this is when you're going to have a lot of influx of people coming through the neighborhood, especially during rush hour times. I talk to a lot of people that have lived here for 15 or 20 years, and they will tell you that we feel like we've lost that small town feel. That's why it is super important that you figure out which village is going to work best for you based on where you spend most of your time, where you hang out, or even where you have to travel to work. Growth by itself is not a bad thing, but if a small town feel is what you're chasing, you do need to know that it has changed. This last one is probably one that you've already assumed. The median sales price as of January 2026 was $615,000 here in the Woodlands. That is roughly triple of the Texas state average. Now, I get a question all the time, well, do they have entry-level homes or first-time home buyer price ranges in the 300s? Yes, we absolutely do have that. We even have townhomes and apartment complexes that are spread out through the neighborhood. But I will say those entry-level prices are going to be very competitive and very limited. You can typically find these homes in the villages of Panther Creek or Grogan's Mill that were built early on in the development. Things that you will see in those homes sometimes are older piping, older electrical. They don't have the retention ponds like the newer side of the neighborhoods do. They used almost like the front ditch system where sometimes the driveways, you even drive over those to help the water flow throughout the neighborhood. These areas do not have those retention ponds or ways to hold water. This is the reason why all these things reflect in that price. If budget is your primary concern, there are a ton of options right outside the Woodlands nearby where you can still use all the amenities and be within 10 minutes. In fact, some of these entry-level new construction communities have homes even brand new all the way down to $250,000. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this, since now you have both sides. The Woodlands isn't right for everyone. It was never supposed to be. It's right for the people that know exactly what they're getting and decide the trade-off is worth it. And if you want to know exactly where you fit into all this, which village works best for your life, what your actual tax rate is, how long it's going to take you to commute to work. As I mentioned earlier, my team and I have spent countless hours putting together this Woodlands playbook. This is a pure giveaway on my part, and it's completely free. I genuinely want people to understand what they're getting into when they purchase a home here. Click the first link in the description below, but before you do, a $600,000 decision deserves more than just a YouTube video. It deserves the data and the real numbers. So go grab it, the link is below, and I'll see you in the next one.